You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty. It is April 3rd, 2024, and we are coming to you with an update from the Granite State with our special guest today, Ben Weir. So he is a podcaster and a person who's been very active in the Libertarian Party in the past. So we're going to talk with him about a whole bunch of things, kind of the Freestate Project, because that happens there. Porcfest is coming up, and we're going to talk with him about his podcast and a few things just happening in the news, like all this kerfuffle over holidays and special days that the government has and everything else. But before we get into any of that, let us introduce you to the rest of the panel. In our lower left-hand corner, we have our invisible hand, James Just.
You're going to have to come up with a new nickname, Jason. I think at this point, you're just going to have to come up with one.
Yeah, if you're going to be visible every week, it's hard to call you our invisible hand.
I see it right there.
You should start going by Adam Smith at this point.
There you go. Yeah. Adam Smith, or well, I guess maybe we have your cousin, the very visible hand of the state.
Yeah.
There you go. And so, no Leon or Tim this week. And then on our lower left-hand corner here, we have Ben. And my name's Jason, and I'll be your host today. So let's jump right into it. So we usually start out all of our shows now with a Liberty quote. And this week, I thought this was kind of a fun quote. It's a guy who's always had some interesting quotes regarding government, and it's H.L. Mencken. And he's a journalist and sort of a culture critic, satirist, and I particularly like this one. He said, the most dangerous man to any government is the man who is able to think things out for himself. Almost inevitably, he comes to the conclusion that the government he lives under is dishonest, insane, and intolerable. And I can't think of a better description over how most of us feel after this whole COVID lockdown mess that we've gone through over the last few years. So, what do you guys think about this? I think that's a great quote.
I mean, absolutely. Like, I was out in California while the whole COVID stuff was happening. So, I can say I'm happy to live in a part of the country that offers a lot more freedom. But I will say that it was miserable out there. And definitely the government is dishonest, insane, and intolerable. So,
well, there's a reason our public education system is, we'll say, not well. It's by design, Jason. It's by design. They don't want us to be able to think. They just want us to memorize names, dates, and how to do their processes, how to fill out their paperwork. So, yeah. I think the end results are clear. So.
Well, given that, especially those of us in California, New York, and those others definitely would agree that, government appears to be dishonest, insane, and intolerable, that kind of brings us up to the Freestate Project.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good segue, and it's something we've talked to Ben with last time he was on the show, and we've talked a few other years. We've been trying to keep up with this. So we have a video clip this year that we haven't shared before that's on their site, and I think in fact let me bring up the Project Freestate site just so we can show that, James. So that they have a web page and you can check that out. But I wanted to bring up the this video that they had, and it's a pretty cool video that really gives a good sense of what the project is about. So James, can you play KOL number 1?
You know how government always chips away at your liberties? You know how those greedy politicians and backward bureaucrats relentlessly siphon your productive efforts into their dirty pockets? And yet, no matter how much they take from you, it's never enough. If you feel like I feel, if you just want to be free, I've got good news for you. You are not alone. Hi.
What's good?
Hi. Hi.
Hey y'all, I'm a Free Stater.
I'm a Free Stater.
I'm a Free Stater.
Because liberty lives in New Hampshire.
Because liberty lives here in New Hampshire.
Liberty lives right here in New Hampshire.
The mission of this charity is so beautiful, largely because it's so easy to understand.
Libertarian doers have been consolidating our efforts
in a single politically accessible state with a pre-existing pro-liberty culture. And we're winning.
Just so much easier to win in New Hampshire compared to anywhere else. I've been elected to the legislature 4 times.
As a libertarian homeschooler, and after experiencing the homeschooling community here, I literally can't imagine raising my kids somewhere other than New Hampshire.
Thousands of libertarians have come before you. Now it's your turn. Join the Freestate Project. Come to New Hampshire and do something good for the cause of liberty.
So I cut that down a little, but they talk about all the things. They try and help people to move there. They encourage people. They talk about all the different projects they're into. But the big thing is it sounds like it's something to really draw people in to, because it's a small state, and therefore we can have maybe a oversized footprint if we can just get enough libertarians there. And
Yeah.
James, can you bring up the visual real quick too of the, I have here, Cato has updated their Cato map of Liberty. So this is the first time we've gotten to show that on the show since this is in 2023, they updated it. And of course it still has New Hampshire as the #1 state, and of course you can see, like I said, these states like we're stuck in over here in California, number 48 state. So it's one of those things where, we look longingly at your state, Ben, as you see what's going on. So you want to tell us a little bit about your experiences with Freedom Fest or not Freedom Fest, sorry, but the Free State Project and how that's helped you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's so really like, I lived in California for about 3.5, almost 4 years. And I was on a board with James Just here. And we did some work in Sacramento together. But I've always kind of been involved with like libertarianism, and I'm very interested in that. And I've always been like a very much like a freedom advocate and a Second Amendment rights advocate and free speech absolutist. So like being in California for 3.5 years too long. Sorry, James. Sorry,
No,
guys.
I feel you. I just wish it wasn't so cold over there, Ben. That's my.
Yeah. So I was like, I was making good money working construction out there, but man, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it anymore, man. So I always loved New Hampshire since I was a young kid, and I've known about the Free State Project for a long time. So what I ended up doing is 2.5 years ago, about 2 years ago, I moved to New Hampshire, made the long journey with my moving truck across the country with the intention of, running for office and getting involved locally, politically, being part of the community. And I don't regret it for a second. Like it honestly, like the community's been great up there. And, I have a place in Manchester, and I'm also currently residing down in Massachusetts as well, as I'm recovering from getting cancer removed. But, it's been pretty crazy. So my first year here, I was an events coordinator for someone running for Senate under the Libertarian Party. And then also, I ended up running for county sheriff as well myself. And I have no law enforcement experience, but I believe that the sheriff position offers a lot more potential for freedom if you're able to get in there and nullify laws, or just simply tell the force, you are not to enforce unconstitutional laws or unjust laws or victimless crimes. There's a lot of power that the sheriff has that, it's going to make a lot of other county sheriffs mad to exercise that, or really to not exercise that. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It was a great experience. There's a lot of people that were willing to contribute. There's currently, over 40 people elected to the state house here that call themselves openly libertarians, anarchists, agorists, voluntarists, that are homesteaders. They have a lot of them own their own businesses. Like, this is a really crazy thing, because like this isn't happening anywhere else. And people always wonder, like, how is that even possible that you have so many libertarians or people who call themselves libertarians elected to office? And well, in California, as you know, like one state representative represents 600,000 to 700,000 people, right? So here, it's so decentralized. We have over 400 state reps in the state of New Hampshire. There's only like almost like 1 million people that live here. So if you narrow it down, it's one representative for every 2,500 people about. So really you're electing your neighbors, and it's really decentralized to the point where you can go out and knock every door and meet every single person that's voting. It's just a really good, it's just a really good system that's in place here to decentralize the overall government structure. So
just curious, for libertarians who have been elected there, and as also too, when you were running, did you run like as a small L libertarian or as a big L libertarian?
I ran as a libertarian. I ran as a libertarian. A lot of them run as Republicans, or we have some elected as Democrats as well, depending on what district that they're in. And truthfully, we've had libertarians run, like Brandon Finney. He ran as a Republican, I don't know, 8-10 years ago. He used to be very involved with the Libertarian Party. And then he switched his party status once we had ballot access here to run as a Libertarian. And then he lost that election. So then the next term he ran as Republican again, and now he's elected again. So it's pretty wild. Like, we don't have ballot access as libertarians here, so there's a lot more effort that needs to be put forth to go out and get signatures and to pay all kinds of money to be put onto the ballot. I think, like to gather, if you're running for some kind of federal office, you need to get like, I want to say, like almost 6,000 signatures. You really need like 3,000, but like half of them will cancel out because they can't read it, or people signed a petition for someone else and it cancels yours out. All kinds of stuff. So, to get like 6,000 signatures, you need a good team of people. And oftentimes it ends up costing, to pay petitioners $15,000 to $20,000. It's really, it's an expensive fee. That's not even including like your filing fees or anything like that, or any of the other like marketing stuff. That's just to get on the ballot. So,
and for what level office is that when you're talking about like,
that'd be for federal, governor, for governor, Senate, Congress, stuff like that. If you're running for more local, like state rep type stuff, it doesn't take as much. Like when I ran for county sheriff, I believe I had to get, I don't know, it was like 1/6 of what they needed. So I think I needed like 400 or 500 or something like that. I ended up having to get like 750, something like that. It was very like much so an effort. And for me, I didn't actually ask for any money to help with, getting ballots or anything like that. I personally went out and got every single signature myself. So like, this isn't something everyone can do though. Not everyone wants to go spend 12 hours outside of a grocery store asking people to, give them their attention. So, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work when you don't have ballot access to get on the ballot. And I do think that there's a good strategy there, for people who are libertarians. There a lot of these people were like huge Ron Paul supporters back in the day. I've talked to all of them, and for me, they at least passed the libertarian purity test, which I know a lot of people like to do purity tests in the Libertarian Party these days. And anyone willing to put an R or a D next to their name might not make that purity test, check that purity, the list off for a lot of people. But for me, I just know that there's a lot of nuance with this, and you have to kind of work. I think people should still try to run as libertarians, and I still will try to run as a libertarian. Some people are convicted for this, and that's just how it is. Other people are actively impacting our freedoms and making our state here more free, by nullifying federal gun laws, by abolishing no-knock raids, and doing all kinds of cool stuff like passing school choice this last year. There's we have a Defend the Guard hearing this week that's already passed the state house. That's probably we're fighting to get it past the Senate so it can go up to the governor. I don't know. It's a lot of work, but these people are very much so pushing libertarian ideals, and trying to bring the troops home and exercise personal liberty. They don't want the government in our business, which is, libertarianism 101. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the difference between a small L, big L, right? A small L is perfectly fine if it's practical. If you can't get anything done as a big L, then you go and do something else. You do something that you work smarter and harder is kind of what we have to do. And yeah.
I find that's one of the discouraging things too when you talk about needing like $20,000 to overcome ballot access for some of these places. That's part of the problem is that I guess for libertarians we're selling getting the government out of your life, and of course nobody is willing to, I guess, fork over large sums of money.
Well, we're supposed to call ourselves fiscally conservative, I thought.
Yeah.
So we have to also think what are we getting out of this, right? So spending millions of dollars arguably across the whole country on something that is essentially a marketing campaign, because we're only getting 2 to 4% if we're lucky on a lot of these races. That's something we have to talk about. Is it worth it? I think we have to keep trying to push libertarianism and maybe push more localized offices. But, some of these bigger campaigns, I don't know if they're all worth spending that kind of money on. I'm just going to be honest about it. I think that if we had taken that $20,000 and split it up among 20 state rep seats, we could probably win several of them. I'm just, you know what I mean? Especially in New Hampshire where you're, $1,000 goes a long way when you're only having to sell yourself to 2,500 people. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. It's something to think about. And then we're just talking about New Hampshire here. I'm not even talking about New York where they need 50,000 signatures. You know what I mean? It's crazy out there. So.
Yeah. And then when you hit a goal, you just move it, right? That's
exactly what happens. They did that here. Yeah. Last time, what used to be 2% that you needed. If libertarians get more than 2% on a federal race, so governor, Congress, or Senate, then you have ballot access. Well, they did that. And then after they got it, they raised the number to 4%. And then this last election, they didn't get 4%. So they lost ballot access. So.
Yeah. I think I heard Larry Sharp talking about that in New York too, how he was able to get on the ballot one year for governor, and then they just completely jacked up the numbers on him the next time around. So it was very difficult. So,
yeah.
So that makes even more sense. While some will choose a different path to try and change things, but of course, again, if they're the ones who are changing ballot access laws, there's an issue. So.
Yeah. And I mean, I got to say too, this is not people that run for office here. They're not running to make money. So if you're elected as a state rep in the state of New Hampshire, you're only getting $100 for your salary per year. That is that is there. That's it. And it costs a lot of money to get to the state house every week to vote on things and to do all this stuff. It is a huge time commitment. And to get $100 a year, nobody's doing this for the money. That is the good thing. And I know in Massachusetts, we're also trying to get ballot access here too. And it's been, I don't know, it's crazy. It really is. The whole process is insane. There's so much bureaucracy trying to hold everyone back. Even in places where you do have ballot access, you know what I mean? There's a lot of active pushback to try to keep you away so that you don't sway that 2% of the vote. It's kind of wild. So
well, there's a reason we have a jungle primary here in California, right? We technically have ballot access, but not realistically we don't.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there was one other question I wanted to ask you on this subject before we jump to the next thing, and it's given all of the migration that we've seen from states, certainly we've heard of all the people leaving for Florida, Tennessee, Texas. How has New Hampshire been doing during this period? Have you guys seen a lot of influx, especially with the Freestate Project, or is it, do you think it's healthy growth that you're seeing there?
I think that COVID really has cause people to reassess where they're living, especially if they have children and are raising a family. I mean, really, I came here, right after COVID definitely like made me want to get the hell out of California a lot quicker. And even though it was kind of like calming down by the time I left, like everything else, like I said, a gun advocate. Half the stuff I owned made me a felon out there. So, it's just the truth of it. And, I think that like we have seen a healthy growth in the population here. I know a lot more people are moving here than moving away. It's hard to say if it's really more from the right or from the left. I know that a lot of people from like Massachusetts are moving up this way because it's more affordable to live. And the same thing goes vice versa too. Like a lot of people in New Hampshire work in Massachusetts. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to say, but I think that I think it's healthy. I know Freestate Project has seen a bump. I've seen a bunch of new movers lately coming in. I think going forward, I think things like this presidential election, this cycle, if the Freestate Project wants to be successful, they need to use whatever candidates they're getting behind to really sell the liberty in the state of New Hampshire. And I think that is what is going to help draw more people up here, just showing people that they want people to be able to come here and just live their lives freely, come and start a homestead, come and start a school, come and do whatever it is you want to do. And there's a lot of opportunity in New Hampshire. And I think that I've been, I love the Freestate Project, but I've also been openly critical because I don't think that they have done the best job at selling the Freestate Project. They sold it to me, but I don't think that it sells to everybody, because a lot of times we really get stuck in our social media echo chambers, and eventually you just start promoting it to the same people over and over and over that have already heard about it. You know what I mean? And I think that that's just common among everybody, no matter what. You need to find new ways to sell yourself and to market. And I think that this year we really the Freestate Project really needs to find a way to market itself to people who, just need something new that haven't heard of us before. This is what I try to do with the Libertarian Party, putting events on publicly that aren't necessarily official party events, but promoting liberty in my communities, and going to do the emo caucus that I started. We're going to music festivals and concerts, handing out flyers to people to try to bring the anti-government, anti-authoritarian music lovers into the party, because that's kind of my niche. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think that there's the one thing that I do think is a glimmer of hope for the Freestate Project is that there are a lot of active people here. People move here and they want to be involved. They do get involved. We just need more of that. We need more of that. So a lot of people move here, they'll be involved for 2 years, then they get stagnant and they don't do anything ever again. Keeping people active is just as difficult, because you need to do things that are interesting and keep your community, active and interested. So they have a lot of work to do. I'm not trying to criticize them too bad, because I don't know if I would do any better of a job. You know what I mean? But that's just, I don't know, my 2 cents on the whole thing. But yeah, New Hampshire's, I think it's been a healthy uptick. And I do think that especially this year, we're going to see more freedom. And I'm really pushing and hoping for Defend the Guard passing at the Senate level, because we very well could be the first state in the country to pass Defend the Guard. So.
Yeah, that would definitely be a good step in the right direction, especially toward shrinking all of this expenditures we have that just going to this military industrial complex. It disappears overseas.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about these outreach and ways to keep everybody involved, I guess it sounds like Porcfest is one of those things that is really a strong effort. And it's funny too, we just interviewed Valerie Durham from Freedom Fest. So that's one of those things that happens within about a month of when you guys are doing Porcfest. Yeah. And so, certainly these are excellent opportunities for people. Let's see, James, I think we have just enough time to squeeze in the Porcfest thing before we have to break. So let's show this video for Porcfest right now so people can get a sense of what that is.
Hey, welcome to Porcfest. this beautiful chaos of people that love liberty coming from all over the country to camp in northern New Hampshire to gather, to share stories, to share strategies. People are actually migrating to New Hampshire to be part of this community. And it kind of reminds me of the parking lot at a Grateful Dead concert, because in one sense, everybody's different. Everybody wants to do something different, but somehow they come together as a community and do something together that is big and beautiful based on peaceful cooperation.
We're trying to build this libertarian mecca, right? It's this little planet, this little free planet that can prove it is possible, so that we can say to the naysayers, you have it wrong.
Yeah.
Of course, a consent-based society can work.
What I find special about Porcfest is just people coming together to do things, not because they have to, but because it actually means something to them to have these conversations and build these companies and build these movements without any other thing driving it than their passion and their excitement for what they do and what they love.
So you're going to see almost everything here.
And that's been great, seeing the energy, seeing all the people who are coming together and love all the same things we do, even if they're coming from different parts of the country or living their life in different ways. So this is a truly special place.
The sessions are fantastic. I was so excited by the lineup, and then I had my whole day planned out hour by hour, and I ended up spending most of my day at the campsite.
Libertarian Twitter, and then you come to like an event like this, and it's like, man, it's just so different. Everybody's cool, which to me is like the most beautiful thing about liberty, is that you really do have people from all over the cultural spectrum. I mean, there's like everything from Christians to, you know, people who are like going to do acid in the woods. It's a really beautiful thing.
You guys need to understand what this is, because it is everything about freedom and liberty and the principles of libertarianism put in practice.
So that was a video from Porcfest from Free the People organization that we edited down just a little bit at the same time in the show. But that's Porcfest is coming up in June 17th to the 23rd. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And we're also going to talk more about Ben's podcast as well, Shut the Punk Up. But before, unfortunately, if you're on public access, you're going to have to catch the rest of this online. So the conversation continues there. You can catch us on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, Facebook, and just go to knuckleheadsofliberty.com, and you can follow these conversations there and other conversations that we've had with a lot of other interesting people fighting for liberty around the country and in your region as well. So I guess back to the show. So I guess Ben, you've probably gone to a lot of these. What's your thoughts of the efforts of Porcfest to try and spark the libertarian energy out there?
I can't oversell Porcfest. Like, Porcfest is such a fun time. Like, this last year was like the second time I've been to Porcfest. I was there the full week this year, and it was fantastic. Like everything that you see in this video, like times 1,000, because you have people from all over the country that come and just get together. They'll camp out, or they'll get a hotel or whatever. And there's so many things to do. Everybody has their own site, and at these sites, they're called hubs, and essentially you can put on your own events. You can have speakers come and talk at your RV site, or have a party, or be a vendor. There's a lot of people that will like sell food and stuff like that. Me this year, I'm putting together. I have a hub, and I have one that's dedicated more to alternative music and all this stuff, and trying to like bring more of that into it, and bring some live music into the atmosphere, because they have live music. And one thing that I noticed is that they needed more of it. So I'm trying to have some, I don't think you can ever have too much live music though. Let's be honest. So doing stuff like that, I'll be DJing a couple nights, doing some kind of dance party type stuff. And then we're also going to have like punk rock karaoke at my hub. That's going to be a blast. A full bar. It seems like almost every hub has a full bar. You have people selling their art. There's a ton of art at Porcfest, which is one of my favorite things, because everyone makes something. There's so many creative people out there. and they'll go out there and they'll just sell whatever they've been working on all year, and it's so cool. And there's really like, I don't know, I think everyone should experience Porcfest for sure. If you can make it out for the full week, that's great. At the very least, try to come out Thursday through a Sunday. At the very least, it's just a good time, and you know, I think it's a life-changing experience for a lot of people. Some people will go back the next year, and, you know, I've seen people have gotten married at Porcfest because they met at Porcfest. So all you single neck-bearded libertarians out there, you know, go to meet your future love of your life at Porcfest.
It seems like the very liberty-oriented Burning Man is what it sounds like, especially with that video shot.
There's that side of it too. Yeah, there's definitely that side of it too. You know, there is people who just want to go out and smoke weed in the woods. Sure. You know, that's a thing. But you know, that, like, it's not the center point, like, of any of this, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, you know, there's a lot of guns, everyone's open carrying out there, you know? So, that's always fun too. But the speakers are great. Like, this year they have Spike Cohen, they have Ron Paul doing a speech as well. And you know, they've barely announced any of them. So these are just the ones I know of so far.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's just coming around the corner too. So
yeah,
it's got to be exciting seeing all the names pop up. I know we talked to Valerie with Freedom Fest, and they're still, you know, adding names as well to their lineup. So
yep.
Yeah, that's one of those things. I'm hoping I can get out there to Porcfest one of these days. But by the way, if you are planning to get out to Porcfest, how early in advance do you have to book that? Because I hear there's like limited spaces or tickets to that sort of event.
If you want to get like a site, you know, an RV site or a tent, within a couple like months of them announcing, like, I think they probably still have some sites available right now. But like, really, like, if it's not sold out already, like, it's going to be sold out pretty quick. They always sell out. I think they have like a ton of sites that are just dedicated to tent style camping. And then you have a bunch of RV sites. The RV sites sell out really, really quick. And if you're getting a hotel or an Airbnb, I would plan to book that pretty quick too. Like, I've actually had my tickets pretty much since they opened up sales, which I had early bird. So I think that was like maybe last August or September. You know, and it saves you some money that way. But, you know, if you can't go this year, try to look for the specials this fall, because they're going to have them. And that's the best time to buy, I think. So, and then if you want to come back the next year because you loved it so much and you ended up being lucky enough to get an RV site, well, you have first come, first serve to that site for the next year. So, like, you know what I mean? So that's why, like, a lot of these don't even come up, is because people come every single year. So they make it like, you know, their family trip or whatever, and they'll come out for the full week because they already have a hold on that site, basically. So.
Yeah, I know these events can be really energizing for people who are, I guess, oriented toward liberty. I went to the Freedom Fest. My first one was the one they did in South Dakota, which I think was the first one they did outside of Vegas, you know, for quite a while. But it was funny because it was in the middle of the lockdowns, and the reason it wasn't in Vegas is because they locked Vegas down, which was pretty really just extraordinary. I mean, just to see some of the drone video that people were taking, where it's like Vegas had been hit by a zombie epidemic or something. I mean, just empty streets, which is pretty amazing. But yeah, I went into South Dakota, and I took my kids, and it was a heck of a lot of fun. So I can't imagine how awesome Porcfest would be, where you're really immersed in just camping out there.
It's a great time. Like, I literally can't oversell it. It's so fun. And I will plan to go every year. So
awesome. Well, you know, when talking about the music that they had there, that seems like a good segue into talking about one of your endeavors that you've started recently, which is the Shut the Punk Up podcast. And I guess you have a music background, I guess, and so this is a way to sort of tie that into the liberty movement. So, James, before we jump into talking about that, maybe we could show a video clip. This is an intro to one of his shows recently, where he had Libertarian guest presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party, Lars Mapstead, who's been on our show as well. And so this is the intro to that, so you can kind of get a taste of what Ben's show is like.
What's up, guys? It's a Friday night. I'm feeling good. You're feeling good. I've got the man himself, Lars Mapstead, on the show with me tonight. He is running for president, and I'm really stoked about that. He, as a candidate for the Libertarian Party nomination, we're going to figure all that stuff out in D.C., but I'm going to bring him up here, and we're going to have a little talk. Yo, Lars, what's up, man? How you doing?
Yo, that intro that you got going there was awesome. I'm like, oh, I got to get in the pit now. Let's go.
Let's open up this pit.
Let's go. Yeah,
it's
been a bit since I've been in a pit, and I definitely felt my age the last time I was in there, but.
So it sounds like this show seems to definitely have I guess a more intense and also lighter vibe than a lot of the libertarian shows where it's a bunch of sort of eggheads sitting around talking about economics.
That is one thing I will avoid at all costs, man. Like so I don't want to just be like another libertarian podcast. That is not what I want to do. I love liberty. I love libertarianism. And a large part of my life has been music. And I've been involved with the music scene from a very young age. I started a band very young. And I also have toured the country. I've been through 40 plus states with my band projects, driving through and traveling around the country and stuff. And, this is a huge part of my life. I love writing music and being a part of that. And something that I've known for a long time is that there's a lot of people in the music scene that, like, if you think about alternative music or just music scene in general, you're thinking like there's a lot of like really crazy left-wing socialists, which is actually true. There's a lot. But then you have like the polar opposite. There's a lot of people that don't want the government in their business, that, they love the music because a lot of times music is an act of rebellion against the government. Some of the bands that used to preach about rebelling against the government are now government shills. That's true. You got Rage Against the Machine and as well as plenty more. But, this is like, it's been a huge part of my life, and I love music. This is, this is kind of my niche. I was at, I was like, I started the emo caucus, which is also part of this as well. But, I really wanted to start a podcast that was like, definitely like a more chill vibe. I don't want it to be too overly serious where we're just debating all the time. Yeah. Live free or cry. Where we like, we'll go out to events and, for the emo caucus, and I'll go out to like rock shows and festivals, and I'll hand out flyers that direct people to this, which is kind of acts as a bridge. We don't talk about politics in our group. Not so much like, because there's a lot of in-party fighting, just like with every political party. We just share music, share our favorite music, and we just socialize. It's a social club. It really is what it is. And, there's been several people that I've handed flyers to now that have signed up to become members of the Libertarian Party, and they actually are starting to become active because they thought it was just all boring, and there was just a bunch of crazies with a podcast and neckbeard, and that's just not the case. Like, I don't have a neck. I mean, I actually kind of do right now. Kind of sucks, but I haven't shaved in a while. But and I am one of those cliche libertarians with the podcast, But at the same time, I think that this is a different perspective. So I have plenty of libertarians coming on. We do talk a little bit about that alternative culture and stuff, but I also have a lot of musicians coming on, and that's like kind of like my goal here is to bring on a lot more musicians and, push back against cancel culture, which has been crazy over the last few years especially with COVID, bands and musicians losing their entire livelihood because they couldn't go play somewhere if they didn't get a shot. You know what I mean? So, and I know plenty of musicians that this personally affected their lives and their money and their income and their families, where they'll have kids and they're not making as much money because they can't tour due to certain things that were happening. And, like, I don't know, like, this is all, like, part of it's like me having fun, networking and talking to people, because I love talking to my, fellow musicians, and spreading the, anti censorship message and all that stuff. And then also like it's creating like a network basically of all these different musicians who have been impacted by this, and letting other people know that like, you know, there is power in groups like this, because you like, you know, they can't cancel all of us. You know what I'm saying? So they can try, but as long as the internet has power and everything's plugged in, I don't know, it's going to be really hard to shut us up. And even when they do that, instruments are a lot louder than most people are, so we can still play, you know.
Well, it's funny because, you know, I mean, for me, you know, the driving thing about you know, libertarianism is the idea to sell people on the idea that, hey, allowing people to be more free works, but also to trying to explain some of that, you know, economic ideas of why that works, to put some of the firepower behind it. But, you know, without the arts, without connecting with people's emotions, it seems to be something we just have this huge uphill fight. So, I mean, it's really heartening to see you out there trying to connect with people on this other ground. You know, you see other people like, you know, Dave Smith as a comedian, and then you have, you know, other artists as well out there. But man, it seems like
for me, like, I think like there's a lot of people out there like that, you know, can impact the world through the political realm. And maybe I am one of those people too. But like for me, in my opinion, is that like the best way to impact the world, and if you want to have an impact on society and on culture, I think that art is one of the best ways to do it. Art and music is how I formed a lot of my political opinions growing up. It's what made me rebellious and to think for myself and be an individual. So, you know, like I think that like this is a crucial element to what we're missing in the Libertarian Party and the Liberty movement is we, not that there's a lack of artists, but we definitely need more of them, and we need to be celebrating them and promoting them more. You know, because I think that that's what it is. Like we need to show the world libertarian art, even if it has nothing to do with liberty. We should be, you know, boosting up these people who are celebrating art and making this stuff, because like I said, it's the best way to impact culture. Even doing stuff like podcasts. Some people are good at podcasting. Still trying to figure out if I'm one of them. But you know, like that's a, you know, can be considered a form of visual art. And you know, it's alternative media, and you know, it's alternative culture, all this stuff. It's all tied together. So
yeah, no, go ahead,
James. No. I was actually going to see if you want to jump in.
Dan, you're talking about the libertarian podcasters on a libertarian podcast. That's kind of, we're a couple of libertarian podcasters, but I do kind of agree with you about dealing with the culture area. You can see my little sign behind there. And, you know, I do have a podcast. We don't talk politics at all. We completely avoid it. But there is a mindset, a liberty mindset that runs throughout your whole life, decisions that you make. And so if you can spread that as well, spread the mindset that you are ultimately responsible for yourself. Sure, things can happen to you. Sure, you might even be a victim, but you're still the one who has to work your way through it and come out the other side. No one else can do that for you. And
definitely. I mean, there's a lot of things that like they'll tell you, you're not supposed to talk about this, you're not supposed to sing about that. But once you take the red pill of libertarianism, you can't untake that. Like it's always going to be part of your life, and you're going to sing about whatever you think is important to sing about. You're going to say whatever it is you think is important to say. And I think that's one of our most important things that we can boost up as libertarians is our right to free speech. And you know, whereas like you're not going to agree with everyone's free speech, you're not going to like everything everyone has to say. That's just the truth. But and you don't have to associate with people if you don't like them. That's just the truth too. But the censorship stuff is just getting insane these days. You know, you have like even like Florida passing laws like where they can like send you to jail if you talk bad about the Jays or something. I don't know. Like it's crazy. Like, and you know, like I don't like, you know, really associate with too many people that like are like that. But it's like I think it's crazy, man. The government, like their power has no end, and they've already, you know, passed so many laws and incriminated or put in jail so many people based off of words that it's insane. And I don't know. actively pushing back against that is one of the most important things we can do.
Yeah, definitely agree. James, could you also pull up Ben's YouTube page as well, so people can see? This is his YouTube page, and you can see a big list of different people that he's interviewed on this show. So certainly some recognizable ones as well in the Liberty movement, like looks like Clint Russell here, and a lot of others. So this is definitely a show worth checking out. But it's funny, you were talking about some of the issues with government getting too far in our lives, and all of the different shutting down of messages. And one of the craziest stories that's been breaking recently, and now kind of segue a little bit into some of the other topics we want to talk about, but is this issue with, recently Biden on Sunday had this issue come up where he made the day called the Trans Identity Day, or Trans Day of Identity, but it's also visibility. That's it. Sorry, but I guess I pulled my own Biden. Messing up a Biden quote.
Come on, man.
But the crazy thing was that, so he came out, and this was Easter Sunday, and he came out and he actually made a declaration, a proclamation from the White House. And here it is, Transgender Day of Visibility. But the crazy thing was, this was also Easter Sunday, and then to top it off, it's also Cesar Chavez Day too. And I'm not sure if there's some other days out there as well, because you see a lot of conservatives were getting really bent out of shape about this issue, that there was the issue that a lot of them were saying, hey, look, is Biden just clueless? This is our day. This is Easter. And it was kind of funny. Even Biden was saying that he didn't do it when somebody asked him about it. So I don't even know if Biden knew what he was doing with all this stuff. But the crazy thing is, to me as a libertarian, why do we have the government setting these days for us in the first place? I mean, if I'm a conservative, do I need Joe Biden talking about Easter for me to enjoy Easter? And I guess if I were trans or a big fan of Cesar Chavez, do I really need to see Joe Biden out there talking about that? I mean, just to give you a sense, James, can you pull the visual up again real quick? This is a day. This is a web page of Congress.gov, and it's special days and holidays. And they have like the National Health Center Week. I can't believe all the different things. Here's let's see, Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. There's a Cambodian American Freedom Day. I mean, there's so many different days.
Campfire Safety Month in there, Jason. You missed that one.
Oh, Campfire Safety. Okay, yeah, there you go. I mean, but if you look at this, it goes on forever. And
was this Congress's like way of like just putting it lightly that Cesar Chavez was trans or something? Is that what was happening there?
Maybe it was to raise the visibility on Cesar Chavez Day.
maybe, yeah.
But that's just the Congress, and of course, there's a list of days that are observed by the president, and of course, you have like Religious Freedom Day. There's Harriet Tubman Day. There's Greek Independence Day. Who knew?
Wow.
But I mean, it's just there's Family Day. That's the fourth Monday in September is Family Day. I mean, would I not celebrate my family if it weren't for Joe Biden coming out and telling me it's Family Day?
Wait, isn't Family Day Christmas?
Yeah, but it's just it's unbelievable. I mean, you look at these lists, and it's like, do these guys do anything?
They're virtue signaling is what they're doing with all these things.
Maybe they just have a ridiculous amount of paid holidays, and the more they add to it, the more days they get off.
And the thing is, the more these you have, the more times you're going to run across where on occasion you will have, shall we say, polar opposite days collide.
Yeah.
And since we can't be civilized today and everybody can't just celebrate their own day alone and ignore everybody else, it becomes a thing. It's part of our culture at the moment, which again goes back to, the culture of civility. As, hey, do your thing, let other people do theirs, and everybody's happier. Stop worrying about what other people are doing.
Yeah. Well, there are certain things that I think like are worthy of being remembered and celebrated. You know, a lot of those are passed down traditionally through whatever religion you're brought up in or household you're brought up in, or, you know, maybe if you're Italian, you celebrate the Feast of the Seven Fishes, even if you're not Catholic. You know what I mean? That's just a thing. But you know, when it comes down to it, the government shouldn't be dictating what we celebrate either. And it's almost like if they're trying to tell you like, oh, this is the day you're supposed to celebrate this. Like, if you're not, does that mean you're doing the wrong thing? It's almost like a way for them to like, but if you don't celebrate, you know, the Trans Visibility Day, then you must be transphobic. It's Easter.
Well, peer pressure. It's a form of peer pressure, right?
It is. It's I don't know. Like, this isn't something that should be the government's business either. In fact, I think that like put into the hands of the free market, we would figure it out. We would figure out what things need celebrated and what doesn't need celebrated. Businesses can go and put up like, oh, we're going to celebrate this month or this day. And they'll put up some signs in their store, or Walmart will put up a couple things up. And like, you know what I mean? There's no government involved with that. That would be a private decision, you know, but like, I think that would make a lot more sense.
Well, the government didn't need to designate Cinco de Mayo as the day everybody goes out and gets drunk for no reason.
Or St. Patrick's Day. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't need the government for that.
Well, you know, it seems to be kind of beyond the pale that, you know, people, you know, seem to really get bent out of shape about this kind of stuff. And I tell you, it's almost one of these things where you just kind of wish conservatives would take a page from libertarians on this and say, hey, look, you know, you'll probably be a lot better off on a lot of the things you want if you just say, hey, I want government out of it altogether.
Yeah.
You know, so
Jason, there's a reason they're not libertarians.
They're not real libertarians.
We'll get them there eventually. Yeah, but yeah,
I'll take some.
Yeah. Well, it's just one of those things too. I mean, it makes you really wonder, you know, what it is these guys are doing when they're putting us into a $34 trillion hole. And I mean, and then they got the public fighting about this kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
they're distracting us with this kind of stuff. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're mad about things that don't matter as we ignore the thing that does.
Yeah.
Right. Next year, our what is it? Next year, our debt payment is $1 trillion.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Insane. Just debt service is going to be it's astounding how much money we are digging our own holes.
Yeah, and we've shown the graph a lot of times from the CBO. I didn't pull it up for this one yet, but you know, the idea that our debt to GDP ratio is shooting way off beyond anything we've had in the past. And according to the Congressional Budget Office, you know, it's just going to keep on heading up if unchecked. And, you know, nobody's doing anything about it. Everybody just keeps on acting like this will go on forever while we argue about which day we should be celebrating, which day we're given approval. But, you know, it was funny. I did like that one comment you made. I think it was you, James, who talked about, you know, that you might get in trouble if you're not celebrating. And I can just see a social credit score, you know, hey, you weren't properly celebrating the dear leaders, edict day, whatever that is, his birthday or whatever. So, because we're kind of getting there.
Well, have you seen like that? They do that in North Korea. Like, you know, like everyone has to clap when he walks in. If you don't clap, like they've taken them out. Like they just disappear. You know what I mean? Like literally, like it's actually pretty hilarious to watch because they all clap in unison, and it looks like it's something like, you know, have you ever played Wii Bowling or like one of those arcade games where everyone's just in the crowd and it looks fake? That's exactly what it looks like, but they're real people, and it's hilarious. Yeah. But this is like that. It's not. I mean, you know, we're not too far off. We got a very tyrannical government. I mean, I wouldn't put it past. It's like, you know, why didn't you celebrate my birthday? It's National Ice Cream Day. Why aren't you eating ice cream with me? I don't know. So
yeah. Well, it's funny too because when Kim Il-sung passed away, that's a dictator of North Korea. And when his funeral procession went by, everybody had to line the roads for miles. And of course, the people all had to look like they were crying harder than their neighbors. the cats get fat. So these people he probably never met, and they're just hysterically throwing themselves on the ground crying. It's just really something almost satirical. But sadly for those people, that's reality. It's really a 1984 hellhole over there. So yeah, but anyways, as far as this is kind of a good segue to our Knucklehead Noise Patrol here, how we usually end the show on something outrageous or ridiculous that somebody has said. And this is actually related to this last topic we had because of all the crazy topics we talked about government sort of naming special days to celebrate. Arizona has them all beat, and they recently they recently decided to declare Pluto as its official state planet. I would have thought most of the official state planets of most states would be Earth, but apparently not in Arizona. It's Pluto. And Jade, we have a little video clip on that of a news clip. Unfortunately, we didn't have anybody talking about it, but we did have a news clip on this. So maybe you could bring that up.
What date did that come out, by the way? That was not on April 1st, right?
No, this it actually came out pretty close to that, but the governor signed it. So if it's an April Fool's joke, she's in on it.
March 31st, 1:49 a.m. Eastern time. So no, that's clearly the day before.
There you go. But maybe we can bring up this. Here we go.
So Arizona already has a state bird, right?
Yep.
And that is?
Cactus wren.
Okay, and a state flower.
The sorrel bloom.
Okay,
yes.
So now we can soon have a state planet.
Really?
Yes.
We're going to claim a planet?
Listen to this.
Okay.
State Rep Justin Wilmeth of Phoenix introduced legislation that would make Pluto the official state planet.
Oh, I get it. I get why.
And
right?
here is why. Clyde Tombaugh discovered Pluto at Flagstaff's Lowell Observatory back in 1930. Wow.
Yeah, and you can still go see the telescope up there in Flagstaff.
So Pluto was once thought to be the 9th planet in the solar system and then was later demoted, which I don't think is fair, to the classification of dwarf planet. Yeah. Representative Wilmeth thinks Arizona's historical ties to Pluto are worth formal recognition. That's pretty cool.
I like it.
Yeah.
We're with you.
Well, so, and just to let you guys know, this is madness is bipartisan because Jane, maybe you could bring this up. The guy who actually put this forward is a guy named Justin Wilmeth, and he is a Republican. So there's that. And then the governor who enthusiastically signed it is Governor Katie Hobbs, and she is a Democrat. So this is a bipartisan madness.
Maybe this is what Libertarian Party needs is for some unity. We need to come up with a state planet. And I don't know, it's wild to me. Like the whole in Arizona, they just do what the hell they want. You know what I mean? Like they're like, are you guys change your clocks back and forward twice a year for daylight savings time? We're not doing that. Like they just do what they want at this point. I'm about it. That's cool. Also, Pluto is getting demoted. I agree is a travesty.
Especially since they were wrong about a lot of it. No geologic activity, all kinds of stuff they were wrong about. And the only thing they have left to hang their hat on is it hasn't cleared its orbit. And my question is, well, time moves slower out that way, so it hasn't cleared its orbit yet.
We should just have hats that say "Make Pluto a planet again," because I would campaign for that.
Yeah, make Pluto great again. Yeah, but it's funny that oh gosh, what was I going to say? Yeah, you almost wonder if the astronomer who decided it was a planet in the first place was Dr. Fauci. Seems to be wrong about pretty much everything. So. Yeah. Well, I can't. Do either guys have anything more on that topic before we wrap up, or?
No, I'm ready for a nap, which means Ben must be ready for bed.
Maybe.
Okay. Well, let me bring up Ben's web pages again. So, Ben, did you have any final thoughts on the show before we wrap up? Anything you want to leave the audience with?
Thanks so much for having me. Definitely check out my podcast, Shut the Punk Up. Every Wednesday and Sunday, we try to have a live stream, and I do a couple other ones throughout the week if I have extra guests that want to come on or it doesn't work schedule wise. And look into the Freestate Project as well. If you're interested, check out Porcfest. It's going to be a good time in June. It's going to be a party. And also, from my clip from earlier with the podcast with Lars Mapstead, he's a cool guy. Definitely go and check out some of the Libertarian Party candidates for president. There's some good ones. My favorites are Lars and Rechtenwald personally, but they're all great people. And I've talked to every single one of them. I had good conversations with them, and I think Chase Oliver's coming on my show next week. Cool. There definitely some good candidates out there. Don't miss out. Check out the Libertarian Party candidates for president and help us decide it in DC if you're a delegate. So
awesome. Yeah. By the way, we're going to have Mike Rechtenwald on next week. So maybe you can get him on your show soon too.
Yeah. I've been emailing them. Like we're talking. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I can't think of anything else. So thanks again so much, everybody, for joining us on this. And again, you can go to our knuckleheadsofliberty.com to check out more of our past shows. And again, we've talked with all kinds of people here, people who are trying to make a difference, either running for office or, trying to just make a difference through art or other ways in the liberty movement. And again, before our next week's show, think of what you can do in your community to try and move the ball forward for liberty as well, because that's what this is all about. We're just trying to give you inspiration so that you can get out there and join the movement as well. So again, thanks so much for joining us. Until next week, stay tuned and stay free.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.